Big day. So the vote was unanimous except for that guy from Louisiana. We're going to do sort of a Q&A. Got a lot of good responses from the piece on Substack called Sex and Conspiracy. It's far and away the most popular piece I've ever done. All right, so let's get into it. So I really like to find little vignettes that explain what's going on, whether it's from tech people or I'll find something and I'll just throw it up on Substack, or for the last couple of years I've thrown it up on TikTok, anything I found interesting. But I think I think you need to listen to this piece by MTG. And I think you need to listen to it more than once. And maybe you ought to listen to it again. I think this is one of the most profound pieces of political rhetoric you're going to find. So, by the way, this is Constantine, the giant bust of Constantine who made the Roman Empire. This is sort of a what's your Roman Empire kind of a moment. So here we go, MTG.
I was called a traitor by a man that I fought for 6 years for. And I gave him my loyalty for free. I won my first election without his endorsement, beating 8 men in a primary. And I've never owed him anything, but I fought for him for the policies and for America first. And he called me a traitor for standing with these women and refusing to take my name off the discharge petition. Let me tell you what a traitor is. A traitor is an American that serves foreign countries and themselves. A patriot is an American that serves the United States of America and Americans like the women standing behind me. And I want to tell you that this only became possible today because the American people, whom we serve as representatives here in Congress, demanded that this vote happen, and they put more pressure on every single elected politician in this city than has ever been put on them. And today you are going to see probably a unanimous vote in the House to release the Epstein files.
Listen.
But the real fight will happen after that. While I want to see every single name released so that these women don't have to live in fear and intimidation, which is something I've had a small taste of in just the past few days. Just a small taste. They've been living it for years. But the real test will be, will the Department of Justice release the files? Or will it all remain tied up in investigations? Will the CIA release the files? Will a judge in New York release the information? That's information that needs to come out. And will the list of names that these women privately hold, and they hold it because of their fear in their heart of what would happen to them if they release it on their own, will that list of names come out? That's the real test. So I want to thank Thomas Massey and Ro Khanna for your bravery in doing something that is much needed in America, crossing the political aisle that has become bigger than the Grand Canyon in America. But these men crossed that aisle on behalf of these women. And that is more of what is needed today in America than ever in our history.
She was considered a flake 24 months ago. That whole thing, first of all, everything you want to know about what's going to happen is in that video, is in what she just said. And the setup that she's standing in front of all these women that have a list, not the Epstein list. They have their own internal list. And I think what they did, because she was right, so in case you don't know, the House voted unanimously. The one guy, Chris Higgins or something from Louisiana, he's just like a sort of a dumbass. Hold on. And then I'm sitting eating, I have to tell you about this because it's funny. I'm sitting eating dinner with my parents, and I look over and I go, what the hell does that say? Breaking news. The Senate passed the same vote that went through the House without a vote. Now just take this in for a minute. The Senate rubber stamped immediately before it was even official from the House. Now, I don't have any, probably something around 9/11 or something like that. I don't have any memory of anything ever happening like that in the U.S. Congress. And so I'm jumping around here a little bit like I always do, but something has just remarkably changed, okay? So somebody just said, yeah, it's just the Republicans trying to get on board with Trump, or they don't really. Regardless, the U.S. Congress just unanimously passed this bill, okay? Hold the thought. Then she says, then the fight really begins. And she lists, I could play it again for you, or I could just, she lists the DOJ, the judge, I guess it was a judge that has the piece of the Epstein files from New York, the CIA, the FBI. What she's implying, I think I'm 90% sure about this. What she's implying is the Congress is going to be like this unanimous thing. And if you remember in fourth grade when you studied the Constitution, Trump came to power and said, we can do whatever the fuck we want, right? Stephen Miller goes on cable TV and he says he has plenary authority, which means the executive can do whatever we want, which is true until the U.S. Congress says no. It's very much like the Roman Empire, people. This is your what's your Roman Empire moment. Okay? And this is Brutus. This is probably the person in the South and the whole country more loyal to Trump than anybody else. She says, for 6 years I was loyal to him. I beat 8 people in my primary without his support, without Trump's support. I'm telling you, this is... she's setting up that the Congress, the House and the Senate together are going to go after everyone and everything and every agency to include the CIA. In other words, no one's going to fuck with us. I think that's what she just said. And then earlier today, I saw Thomas Massey from this summer. I don't remember seeing it. But Thomas Massey sits there and talks to Kash Patel and says, we have this document from the FBI, we have this from this group, this from this group, and this group, that we know, that you know about the Epstein files, internal in the FBI. What he's doing is making a veiled threat that they will impeach and indict Kash Patel. They're going to impeach and indict Donald Trump. They're going to impeach and indict anybody who gets in their fucking way, because the women standing behind her, there's 1,000 of them that have worked together. It's not a class action lawsuit, but they're sort of progressing like that. I guess they have some master list, not the Epstein list. This is the women of Grape Island list. This is their own internal list. And I think it is fucking massive. I think it will blow America apart. And I think here's the part I'm going to speculate on. You don't really need to listen to me. You're just going to go listen to that 2 or 3 times and you'll go like, yeah, they're not fucking around. This isn't Watergate and a special prosecutor and Ken Starr and he put a cigar in her hoo-ha and stuff. This isn't what's going on, folks. This is the whole Congress, the whole, Article 1 of the Constitution moving in uniform motion. Nothing can stop them if this is true. And I have a hunch that they're going to be like, okay, so and so, red state MAGA senator from wherever, Texas or Arkansas or something like that. If you get in our fucking way, what we're going to do is behind closed doors, we're going to subpoena you. We're going to subpoena all of your bank records. We're going to see if you have any contact with any of these people. I think that's what's going on. This is like the end of a mob movie. And you have to choose. You're either going to be on that side or that side. But let's all calm down, huh? The other way to look at this, and truly, let's all calm down. When I got off of, I haven't been doing very much on TikTok, and putting more content on Substack, and took like my top 40 or 50 videos. I'm pretty sure the video that did best on TikTok was 1.3 million views, and it was called War is Over. And the argument was Gaza's a disaster, Ukraine's a disaster, Syria's a disaster, the financial system's a disaster, everything's a disaster. Like strategically, there's no more wars going on. What are we going to do? Like send the fucking Marines to like Bali or like the middle of sub-Saharan Africa? There's no political will for that. There's no money for it. What just happened is the war's over. What do you mean the war's over? Well, if you followed me for some time, it's all one war. Everything that happened since 9/11 is all one war. And let's just take 9/11 off the thing. It's sort of like talking about JFK assassination and like the grassy knoll and the one bullet. Like all that's just little Mickey Mouse details that nobody cares about. Like the better thing to say is like what happened after. Oh my God, I have to tell you this. Somehow this picked up on my TikTok feed. Something about LBJ. I won't even say it. LBJ and the body of JFK. And the person who put the story out is Gore Vidal. And in some sort of private conversation, it was confirmed by Jackie Onassis. So we'll get to that. We'll get back to the war thing. So think about this, people. After 9/11, the Patriot Act was introduced in the 90s by Joe Biden. Who's behind that? Who's behind all the wars? I've been saying for 5 years, Death Star. And now Tucker Carlson. It's almost cool to, it's clearly Israel, right? But I didn't even mention this yet. I think I have to play it again for you. I think this...
Traitor. But America first. And he called me a traitor for standing with these women and refusing to take my name off the discharge petition. Let me tell you what a traitor is. A traitor is an American that serves foreign countries.
Holy shit. She's talking about treason. This is what they're fucking with. This is no cigar and the hoo-ha thing. This is not Watergate. This is not Monica Gate. This is not Gate, Russia Gate. No. What that woman just implied, standing in front of all those abused women, is this is cover for a foreign nation. You follow me? Like, there's no, the DOJ is going to do this and not really. No, motherfuckers. You're all going to be part of a conspiracy that leads back to another nation. And if you haven't learned, we're all, of course, talking about blowing Bubba and all that stuff. And it's all fun and games. And, the most awful thing is that court case with that young Jane Doe, that's 13 years old, and I don't even know if I want to say it on here. I drove back from Texas. I drove to Texas last week, and then I drove back, so I had all this time just to listen to all this stuff. And this one woman came on, and she just had the court documents of Jane Doe, 13 years old. And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think I'll ever fucking get over it. It's just so, like, matter of fact how this went down. I mistakenly said on my couple of my pieces that the 13-year-old is Virginia. It's not. The 13-year-old is Jane Doe, who looks like Trump's daughter, which is another point of... There's several people who are hinting that when you go through these 20,000 documents, that there's going to be things in it, and I've always thought this. There's going to be something in there that's unspeakable. You won't say it at the Thanksgiving table. You won't say it in the bar. You won't talk about it anywhere. It will be so unspeakable that no one can even resist it. And I think that's what just happened in the Congress. I think that they have shit, and they're showing it to these fucking senators. I mean, think about this, people. The Senate didn't even put on a show. You know, they didn't even, well, we're very concerned, you know, what senators do, right? Everybody's very concerned about the women and the this, and we have to be sure. They didn't even show up on the floor. They didn't vote. They didn't do fucking anything. The bill just, like, went through, like, without anything happening. My knowledge is, I don't think there's ever been anything like that in U.S. history. There's some stuff behind the curtain here that is real bad. But the major point I want to make is, you know, I did this sex and conspiracy thing. I think it's free. It's free on Substack. This points to a foreign country. It's not just Epstein and doing some edgy shit and maybe there's some drugs involved or something like that. It's not like Jimmy Page running around with his 14-year-old girlfriend in the 70s. You know what I mean? Where we all sort of like, it's like bad taste, but who cares? That's not what this is. This is clearly a foreign nation. And it is the end of the war on terror. The war on terror is now over. You're welcome. I'm the guy that told you that 2 years ago. They're just going to run out of battlefield. The next battlefield is now AI. It's now Palantir. That's what comes next. So let's talk about that for a minute. Bruno, you're being played. I'll do a nice Q&A here in a minute. Let's talk about Larry Summers. So Larry Summers announces that he's going to drop off from public life. There's nobody that explains the financial system better than Larry Summers. Because, right, he was in the Clinton administration, Secretary of the Treasury. He was also in the Obama administration. He was the president of Harvard. And he really is the guy that represents the financial system after the Cold War. Okay? So like the Cold War ends under George Bush Sr., and then Clinton comes in, and everything we really think about Wall Street and banks and derivatives and algorithmic trading and all this like new flashy finance since the Cold War, this hyper financialization, Larry Summers is the architect of all that. I can plug in, let me give you some highlights. He was the guy that testified in front of Congress and said there should be almost no regulation of derivatives. There's now, you can look this up on Gemini or something after I'm done here, there's now quadrillions of derivatives. Nobody has any idea how these things work. I mean, not how they work, but nobody has any idea of the threat to the Western financial system. The most famous guy wrote a book. His name's Sajatat Das. He wrote a book called Money, Guns, and Lawyers, and it's this thick, and it's about derivatives. The deregulation of banks, allowing the Glass-Steagall stuff that all came out of the Depression, Larry Summers dissolved that. After the 2008 election, literally, Obama had, I forget her name, I always forget her name, I should look it up and remember it, had like a Midwestern Democrat on this side of the table and Larry Summers, okay? And they're all sitting around saying, what should we do now that we're headed into some sort of depression? And the Midwestern Democrat person, I really should know her name because I reference it many times, wanted to do sort of a New Deal kind of a thing, right? And if you remember, interest rates didn't go up. They could have borrowed a lot of money and, let's say, built 5 million homes, which is why the homes are so expensive for our kids today. Larry Summers said, fuck that. They passed the TARP, and then they passed something like the American Reconstruction Act. And as you drove them out of America, they put a couple inches of fucking blacktop on some roads and put up some big signs. And this was our big, like, fake New Deal bullshit. And what they did is they just blew money into the banks. Larry Summers is the American financial system. He is the architect of the whole thing. It is not like Warren Buffett, like, cash flow and we make sure we keep our reputation and all that kind of good old-fashioned American meat and potatoes. Larry Summers is really the Jeffrey Epstein of the American financial system. That's actually a really good way to put it. In other words, there's no rules. Fuck the rules. We don't need rules. What do we need rules for? Just let everything happen. If you want a 13-year-old, you can have a 13-year-old. You want to trade $2 quadrillion worth of derivatives, trade $2 quadrillion worth of derivatives. So that's over. The war on terror is over. They're going to probably make a run at this thing in Venezuela. It'll be a complete fucking disaster, no matter what they do. If we land the Marines, it will be a disaster. Ukraine, disaster. Syria is now run by Al-Qaeda. Gaza, Afghanistan, it's all a disaster. Everything that's happened since 9/11 is a disaster. Anything we do going forward will be a disaster. Larry Summers is truly somebody to think about as this goes down. The other part that people are really taken away from this is that Jeffrey Epstein works for Death Star, and he really is a global fixer, okay? He helps Kavanaugh get put in place. He helps Bannon. Bannon helps him in this total mafioso way. They make deals, Epstein helps make deals with Yemen. You really get a sense that there's a shadow government. And it all comes from the strategy that came from out of the war on terror, which of course begins in the Middle East. They think that that's all going to come to fruition with the Abrahamic Accords. That's what Trump's trying to get through. That's their attempt at kind of a settlement of the whole war on terror, where it's the Yunnan plan. Getting input from people. Okay, so let me lead into the Q&A like this. So my dad's out selling sheep to Mennonites in the barn. I drop off our hand that works around the farm. So I come in to make dinner. My mom has Alzheimer's, and so I make salmon, parsleyed potatoes, and sautéed cabbage. It was actually very good. So the thing is coming on. It's talking about the House, and it's unanimous except for one vote. Then the thing comes on about the Senate, and I'm like, holy shit. So my mom's overhearing all this. She has Alzheimer's. She has terrible short-term memory. And she's picking all this up and here. Who's Epstein? But she can take it all in. And how old were these girls? And then she, like, when she realized that they're like 13 and 14, and then they came up with the pictures. I don't know if you've seen the video of these women today, and they're holding pictures of themselves when they were groomed. And my mom with Alzheimer's looks over at that and goes, oh my God. So there is something here that's like very like deep in the psyche, particularly of women, that men don't really pick up on. Alan Dershowitz is a famous professor of law at Harvard University, and he gets on cable TV and says the age of consent should be taken down to about 13 or 14. How the fuck that guy remains a professor at Harvard, I have no idea. But these people they just make their own fucking rules, okay? And they just made their rules and just made themselves 20,000 documents, and now the entire U.S. Congress is against them, either for fear or they don't want to go back to their constituents and say, I prevented these women from getting justice, whatever it is. Anyways, and then she was like, well, where did they get these girls? And then you have this weird story that you have to explain. And we're like, well, I said, it's like they would be hired at the ski lodge, because we have a couple ski lodges around here. And then they're trained to like work in the beauty shop or like in the massage parlor, and then they're interested in some guys. And she goes, oh, I see. Like she's getting the idea that it's like grooming. She's like, oh, I see. And it was amazing that this thing is so inhuman that even somebody with dementia can go like, oh my God, how awful this is, right? And in my heart of hearts, I really think that these women have a fucking list, and it's just the who's who of America. It's football coaches, it's senators, it's CEOs, it's, policemen, FBI agents. It's all kinds of shit you can't even imagine. I think that's the real story here. Because when she says, when MTG says, after this vote, the fight really begins. Like, that's badass, dude. That's like some Clint Eastwood shit. Like, we're going to get this fucking thing done by unanimous vote, and then we're really going to kick ass. And maybe Kash Patel and his silly Israeli girlfriend, who's half his age, are going to have to think about, like, what's going to happen is some of these people are going to start to squeal. They're going to start to talk. They're going to go to them and say, which side of this do you want to be on? So I'm happy to do like a Q&A, because I should probably just do a little financial stuff. My ongoing theme is the stock market is really tied to the war on terror, and the war on terror just ended. It just ended with that vote. So you should look at these graphs. Let's see if I have one up here. Look at these graphs. There it is. Like, let's just take a pinky dink. It's no good on the iPad though. If you do it on, maybe it'll come up. No. Well, even that one. If you look at these stocks, these NASDAQ stocks, I'm not even going to get into PE ratios and this, that, and the other thing. We have all these graphs in the stock market that look like this. Okay? And right here is the beginning of the war on terror. The stock market just goes along like this, 1987, sells off, goes up a little bit through the 90s, blah, 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 2000, and then the war on terror starts, and then the fucking thing goes to the moon. The stock market is the war on terror. So today in the White House, Trump is sitting with MBS from Saudi Arabia, and he's throwing around this unbelievable. We looked at a very strong. Nobody's ever seen it. We have more factories being built than ever before in American history. The economy is unbelievable. There's 1 million people who've lost their fucking jobs this year. 1 million. Okay. It's 21 trillion. He just made up this number, 21. It's $21 trillion. And then while MBS is beside him, and he's like, you've committed 600 billion. It's like a SPAC. America's a giant SPAC. I did a thing. If you don't know what a SPAC is, go look it up. It's an empty private equity fund that has we don't even know what the fuck's in it. We're just going to put money in it anyways. So he's sitting there like shaking down MBS. I mean, it's almost embarrassing, right? And all the horrible gilded shit that's now in the White House. And he's like, you're going to go for $1 trillion. We need $1 trillion. Can you give us the 600 billion, right? Unbelievable. We committed to $1 trillion. And he's like getting them to admit that they're going to $1 trillion. Then he comes up with this number, this $21 trillion. I mean, if you don't think that the fucking president of the United States is going to be impeached just walking around talking about $21 trillion, $21 trillion doesn't exist. It's like half of all the money in the mutual fund industry. Like, the guy is just done. He's just fucking done. He's got nothing. I mean, these fucking statistics coming out. I mean, postal traffic packages in the postal service are down 20% from last year. It's 1 million people laid off. A lot of them high-end jobs. A lot of them professional tech, marketing, government. People making 6 figures. I don't even know if it's real. I heard this thing, Warren Buffett, go on and on and on and on and on about the auto industry. And there's like 285 days of Dodge pickups on the lot. All the big three could go bankrupt. It's it's war, people. It's war. It's war. It's what's your Roman Empire? When you think of the Roman Empire, you should mainly you can think about Nero and luxury and decadence and all that. You should mainly think about war. War is what takes down empires. War is how empires become empires. And then on the other side of the cliff, on the other side of the curve, war is what takes them out. That's the stock market, people. What is Palantir for? Palantir's for war. It's the kill chain. Palantir is the last little wacko, crazy fucking idea that that 7 million people can take over the world from 7 billion people. That's Alex Karp. That's Alex Karp. Then if they get rid of Trump, or he has falls down the stairs or something, then we get JD Vance, who is, basically like Peter Thiel's boy, pun intended. What does the Congress do then? I don't know that. It truly is like it's like you're studying the Roman Republic and like the Senate and this and the consul, and then he came back and he crossed the river and Pompey fought. But they're going to lose. Make no fucking mistake about it. Those people are going to eventually lose. 7 million people can't take on 7 billion. That doesn't work. Oh, and just a reminder, I was the guy that told you that Donald Trump was not hit in the ear in Butler. That was me, because he's part of a conspiracy, people. That's what there's 20,000 documents to confirm now that the U.S. government is being run by a conspiracy. It's not by the left. It's not by the right. It's not by this cable TV pink blue thing. It's a fucking conspiracy. And it all goes back to a guy who traffics children. And that's how that all works. Everybody else who doesn't explain that doesn't know what the fuck is going on. Okay? So there you are. What does this have to do with blockchain? We're not going to work on that tonight. That's too many irons in the fire. But I think it's interesting that Russia and China and Iran Remember, these are the enemy that Alex Karp is going to destroy with his AI machine. That those nations are not more aggressive. And I think it's because they know that America's being run by a conspiracy. And I think they know it's eventually going to die off. You follow me? Like, Putin has a sense of humor about all this. He's like, he said, I meet this president, I meet that president, but I know that the people I'm really dealing with are the people in black suits with dark glasses on. I mean, it's like he's making a meme on TikTok. And he jokes, he says, like, I think about 90% of all terrorism comes from the CIA. We all know that. That's how Putin talks. I think it's remarkable that they don't really have a strategic vendetta against us as a nation. And this is why Margaret Taylor Greene can say, you know who a traitor is? A traitor is somebody who works for another nation. That's where we are, folks. You got to pick. You got to choose which side of that you want to be on. Clay Higgins, thanks. I was thinking, I don't think I'm going to do this, but I just got flagged for misinformation, so we'll have to settle down and let's all calm down. They need to go after. What's blueberry? Is Qatar funding MTG also? Well, I think MTG stands on her own feet. Qatar is part of the conspiracy. I mean, they were going to give a plane to the President of the United States. I mean, how fucking ridiculous is that? That anybody would even consider that the President of the United States should be flying around in some other fucking fourth-rate country's fucking plane? Like, what the fuck? I mean, the Republican Party is like a freak show. Yeah, Teal sold his NVIDIA and Palantir. What's your good? Thank you there, Texas Gemini. By the way, we're planting the flag in Texas. Michael Burry raising the alarm about AI, and he's betting against the stock market. He took away the registration for his hedge fund from the SEC. He's still managing money on his own. But that is actually a very bearish sign that a bear would give up. You follow me? Like, the idea of the super mega top is when all the people who are against the market say, fuck it, I'm not even playing this game anymore. Michael Burry's stepping away from the market, as well as Peter Thiel selling. It's like the same thing. It's the same thing. Johan Mellinger, Johan, is truth that Palantir goes bankrupt if they're implicated in a conspiracy? Yes. Mm-hmm. That's why I'm going on. Sometimes people are like, what are you doing with all Gog and Magog and all this crazy shit? First of all, Peter Thiel does Antichrist speeches, so Gog and Magog isn't that crazy. And what I'm trying to explain is, like, if you really want to see it in the financial system, you can't go at it like it's Warren Buffett. By the way, Warren Buffett just bought Google because he knows that the winners of the AI race are going to be Google and Apple. But that's for a whole nother Guinness, as my kids used to say. The Patriot Act was introduced by a Republican in the House in 2001. That's not true, Roger. They attempted to put it in via Joe Biden in the 1990s. It did not get anywhere. Everybody thought it was insane. You've been quite prognostic regarding crypto, the wars, and politics, Jim. Thanks, Hutmus. Thanks, dude. We have a new, just while I'm scrolling here, we have a new brand. We have a new entity, corporate entity just got registered in Texas. I'll tell you more about that later on after we get through this other stuff. We gotta send lawyers guns and money. This shit has hit the fan. Did the Feds sell their stocks? Talk about Jeffrey Epstein. Talk about Jeffrey Epstein. I don't really have a lot to say about Jeffrey Epstein. I think I'll just blurt it out. When I think of Jeffrey Epstein, I think of the company. I think of the country who he represents, and I think what's happened. Take it for face. Pretend like this is like a Scorsese movie, right? And you're seeing an electrical engineer from Kentucky, Thomas Massey. You're seeing, I don't know what he does, Rokana from California. They're the guys that put this all together. But the real face, the real statesman is MTG. And I think they have so not struck a nerve. I gotta get something better than struck a nerve. I think the country, and I just explained I said this to my mom. I said, you people your age watch cable TV. I said, you understand that people younger than me don't ever watch cable TV. And here's what she said. She said, that means they don't know what's going on. I said, no, the other way around. She said, really? And she was real. Again, this woman has dementia. She said, really? How do they know what's going on better? I said, because they have all these other things to access. And then I went into the thing about he's sucking off Bubba, right? And Sunday morning, I'm having my free eggs and sausage at the Holiday Inn Express, and Fox News is on. There's nothing on Fox News about any of this. There's the coercion aspect is the most insidious. The grooming, here's something I wanted to say, and I've been afraid to say it because what are the 2 words that you can't say on TikTok? Think about it. The 2 most forbidden words. Do 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 do. Remember, there's we have all this language on here of shit that you're not allowed to say. Okay? Like the English language has been purged of like 30 or 40 things. You have to use these other euphemisms and shit, right? The 2 words that I think are the most forbidden words on here is the name of the country that I call Death Star and the word that is replaced with grape. Think of those 2. Why do those 2 words go together? Why do those 2 fucking words go together? That's what I'll say about Jeffrey Epstein. And I think they went behind closed doors and talked. There's 1,000 of these women, and they're telling these stories. It's like this thing with Jane Doe. I'll just go through it real quick. Trump tied her to a bed, beat her, and raped her. A couple days later, she was 13. She looked like his daughter. A couple days later, Epstein did the same thing. Unfucking believable. Unfucking believable that these people are like the who's who of American society. Noam Chomsky, Deepak Chopra, Bill Clinton's number 1. They did confirm that Bill Clinton's number 1. We were correct in assuming that. It's the fucking who's who of America. This is what America is. America is a Stanley Kubrick movie. This is why I bust up on Christina Romer. I don't remember. Oh, there's a good thing to mention too. And then here we sit here like, well, Jeffrey Epstein, there's this, and he's. What do you mean he's dead? The fucking videos have been tampered with, right? There's no autopsy for the guy in Utah. Everywhere you look, everything is so fucking corrupt. Nothing, you can't hold anything to believe that it's real. Why are you so mad at Biden? He's old. For one, I just think he's an asshole and he's a creep, and I don't really care about Joe Biden. I really don't think very much of Joe Biden and Donald Trump. I think they're sort of these cardboard fake men with all kinds of corruption, and like Joe Biden's always stroking a lot of little girls in the head and all that. Like, they're both fucking super creeps. I think pretty much everything you can say about Biden, you'd say about Trump and vice versa. They're really the same guy, believe it or not. The Abrahamic Accords is this, there's a Simpsons thing with Trump holding this ball, and like there's this, probably the king of Saudi Arabia, and they're holding this orb, and then 10 years later it happened in 2016 or 17. And this is that everybody in the Middle East is all going to come together and fall in love with Death Star, and Death Star now runs everything. At the end of the War on Terror, they now run the whole Middle East. That's the goal of the War on Terror, is these accords. And they're this close to getting them. The only thing preventing them completely happening, and then they're going to rebuild the temple and kill the heifers and all that weird shit. The only thing standing in their way is fucking Marjorie Taylor Greene. I really believe that. DJ Tommy G. I don't really know who that is, but hey there, DJ. What is it going to do to the stock markets? All right, I'll give you a couple things that I've said about for a long, long time. I've always thought that the stock market will ultimately be a big psychological event, like a 9/11 JFK kind of a thing, something that has nothing to do with the earnings or anything like that. If you look in the 1970s, the market bottomed almost exactly with Watergate. With Nixon getting on the helicopter and going like that, the markets bottomed right with that. Just a couple of days, it was either a week after or a week before the market bottomed and then took off again. It makes sense, right? It's all about psychology. There's either a captain of the ship. There's no captain of the ship right now. There's an asshole in the Oval Office talking about $21 trillion. I mean, that's your investment thesis in the stock market right now. AI is based on Donald Trump. AI is based on Donald Trump's magical $21 trillion. And Sam Altman saying that soon OpenAI is going to be more intelligent than all the human race ever combined. And like, okay, Sam, you fucking weirdo. And you're going to build the face of, we're going to touch the face of God with your fucking AI. Like, whatever, dude. Like, it's just dumb. It's just, I mean, America, like, I'm not telling you to sell, buy, whatever. I'm just saying, if America was a corporation and you walked in and there was Trump talking about $21 trillion and Sam Altman telling you he's going to touch the face of God with his fucking computer, I would just turn around and walk the fuck out. There's nothing there, people. There's nothing there. NVIDIA is going to give $100 billion to this one, to that one, to this one. That's circular finance. Like, when you look at a company and you can't figure out, like what's your business model? OpenAI doesn't have one. OpenAI is the basis of Stargate. The whole Trump administration is to build this Stargate thing so we can touch the face of God. Like, if you want to touch the face of God with your 401k, you go ahead and do it. I also think you should think of the stock market in terms of the war on terror. You know, all these AI guys, we got to win the war. We got to win. We got to win AI. We have to win. It's a war. It's not tech. It's a war. Go listen out. Get on YouTube and listen to Alex Karp. There's a guy at war. He's at war with the world. He's a weirdo. He's more of a weirdo than Epstein. Because he actually believes in what he said. Like, he actually just sits there in a chair and somebody's interviewing him. Yeah, we're gonna destroy. How does he say it? We're gonna I think he says defeat. We're gonna defeat Russia, China, and Iran with AI. He's a goof. He's a fucking goof. And there's a stock trading at 600 times earnings with his name on it. The biggest threat to Palantir is Marjorie Taylor Greene. What I'm really getting at is, and I've said this, you can go back through my thing. I mean, I have all this goofy content, right? Gog and Magog and all this crazy shit. But it all has the same thing, is that there's a war being run by Death Star. This isn't hard. Okay? And one day that's going to blow up in our face. And the Congress just passed unanimously, other than one dumbass from Louisiana, just ended the whole fucking thing 3 hours ago. Yeah, Barack is all over Epstein. And the head of 8200, I should wind this down because they're going to get real sensitive and they're going to want to turn this fucking thing off. I can feel it coming. The current head of 8200, which is their cybersecurity thing, let's just maybe end on this, although I do want to answer some more questions. The head of cyber intelligence from Death Star flies here to Vegas, is found with kids, flies home, he's untouchable. That's all the fuck you need to know about America right there. That is the whole fucking story right there. That is what America is. And the only person to stop that is now MTG. Good. There you go, Ian. Do you think the DOJ will find a reason to not release the files? Yeah, so you can go find Thomas Massey take down Kash Patel in the congressional hearings. And he's setting it up that, like, we know that you know. And now they're going to be like, we know what you know. And you're part of the conspiracy if you're trying to prevent us from getting the information. Then if you go listen to MTG, this is why I'm saying this is so important, that she said, after this vote, the real fight begins. Think about that. You've been saying it's going to crash. I don't even think of it like that, like it's going to crash, or I think something, I could sit here and say, like, Tesla is worth $1 trillion and Subaru is worth 30 billion and therefore Tesla could go down 97%, right? I can say that till I'm blue in the face. I've been doing it for 5 years. It doesn't mean Tesla goes down. I think what you're going to see is things like, here's a little taste of it. The board fired Sam Altman in 2023. America is so fucking corrupt that the usage of OpenAI collapsed. They went and put the guy back in charge of OpenAI, sort of semi-officially. There's still board members that say, this guy lied to the board, he makes up shit, he makes up numbers. They just subpoenaed Sam Altman while he's on stage. Do you see what I'm getting? This is like an Epstein thing. This isn't like we did some bad mortgages and shit. No. This is just criminal activity everywhere you look. Criminal. And what has happened here, I think this will be like my punchline for this thing. What has happened to America is we're all sort of in on it. We're all sort of in on the Epstein thing. We don't really care about the fucking numbers. We don't care that people make $7 at the fucking Taco Bell. We don't really care about anything. Fucking, who's the coach from Alabama that I always reference? I mean, the greatest college football coach ever just said, fuck it. I'm not just going to coach kids that just want to make money. If everything becomes about money, anything goes. There's no rules. There's no laws. You can do whatever you want as long as you have enough money to cover it up, to spread the money around, to buy off politicians, to buy off judges, to buy off, you know. I think the 20,000 pages of I wouldn't call it the tip of the iceberg, but I think these 20,000 pages are a big... I think what could come out from the victims, the 1,000 victims, and think about this. They've had all these lawyers. You can imagine the fucking lawyers that want to get in on this, right? That have like done all this work pro bono and name names and are ready to subpoena the bank accounts and everything and like tell the story. I think the Epstein thing is this big, and I think the bigger story that these women have is 1,000 times bigger. And it's things you can't even imagine. You've heard these things about people going to Dubai, right? What do they call them? Porta potties and all this shit. And people are killed and defecated and like, I think it's just going to be unfucking believable. I think a lot of birds are going to sing. They're just going to come to them and say, like, you can be on one side of this history, or it's like the greatest mafia operation ever, is what Epstein really is. Peter Thiel sold his stock. Probably a little bit of inside information about what's going on in Washington. That's my guess. I'm very familiar with Jeffrey Sachs. Why do they call every group a terrorist? That's a very good thing. I've done a number of pieces on this. Because once you start with a war on terror, once everything is a terrorist, there's no rules. See, even in warfare, there's rules. Even, like, you can go study history. It's the weirdest goddamn thing. Like in the Civil War, I just read some things. There'd be all these wounded men at night, like dying and like half alive. And like once in a while, one soldier would get up from one side and just go like wave a flag and say, hey guys, can I just fucking run out there and like pass my canteen around to both sides? There'd be like these ground fires, right, from the cannons and shit. And it would just smolder and come across the fucking fields and the woods and shit. There's all these wounded people like being cooked like a goddamn roasted chicken. And somebody would just stand up and say, please don't shoot me. Can we just fucking be human? No. Not these people. Nope. Okay, that's my 1 hour thing where I have to move a little puzzle piece over. We should probably wind this down. A lot of free stuff over on Substack. A lot of things are going to happen with tokenization between now, the end of the year, and the Super Bowl. Okay? If you want to be part of this, like just a lot of new followers from that sex and conspiracy piece. I think a lot of different kinds of followers than are used to me. You know, they're used to like crypto and shit. We're gonna get you very, very, very familiar with what agentic AI is real quick. So if you want to subscribe and become part of that, here's the deal I'll make with you. We did a little equity swap with Agent Hub, which is just what it sounds like. It's like a leading company in the agentic AI space. Fuck OpenAI. You're going to run AI on a high-end Apple computer. If you have a little extra dough this Christmas season, buy someone you love or yourself the new Apple M5. That's the future of AI. You're going to run all this shit locally. Okay? And I think what I'll do to tie this all together, as the empire breaks down, as the Epstein horror Stanley Kubrick movie just breaks down and people are subpoenaed and go off in handcuffs and blah, blah, blah. What's your Roman... Here, girlfriend. I will read it right here too. I've been meaning to do this, so I might as well do it right now. So, I didn't prepare for it. It's just sitting right here. So this book is called Through the Eye of the Needle. It's by Peter Brown. He's a famous late Roman historian. And there's a chapter here where he talks about local Romanness. Okay, this is like local AI. You think I can pull this off with the Constantine thing behind me talking about AI? I actually can. Local Romanness against central Romanness. Hold on. So I'm trying to find just like one or two sentences. So, yet it had not been for lack of trying. Romans quickly learned that they could make their fortunes at barbarian Gothic courts in the 5th century, much as they had done at the court of the emperors in the 4th century. Quote, for we know of many who have flourished through the favor of the Goths. Ultimately, it was the development of the barbarian courts to which enterprising young Romans might return. I'm sorry that I'm not getting right to the... So what he goes on to explain here is the Roman oligarchs, let's call them the oligarchs, is that people turned against them. That's what's happening, folks. People are turning against the American oligarchs and their relationship to Death Star, which isn't really a real country, but pretends to be. The greed and decadence and disgusting untrustworthiness of all of these fucking people is only mirrored by the French Revolution in history or the Roman Empire. That's what just happened today. Okay? So what people do when the big empire thing starts to break apart is shit starts to happen locally. Go get a Mac laptop for your kid that just came back from the city, lost his job, is living in the basement. Go get him a MacBook. Tell him to get on Substack. Linda, let me tell you something, Linda. We're going to run local AI, okay? And it's going to show you how to run all this new tech, all this new finance, all this new blockchain stuff, all this new tokenization. It's going to be local. It has nothing to do with Sam Altman. It has nothing to do with Palantir. Okay, this is why the new chip, the new M5 chip in the Apple laptop is 80 times faster at running AI. See how this all fits together? All right, get over there on Substack and tell a friend. Have a nice week.